have. Let's start off with our boy Giannis. It's a weird time in the Giannis timeline. There's been so many rumors. There's been so many comments from Giannis himself, kind of being 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And in their game a few nights ago, just randomly Giannis is running down the court. He tweaks his calf a little bit. He looks back, which is always a little bit scary from my perspective when I see a player get injured and then he look back, because I'm always thinking Achilles after seeing 1,000 Achilles injuries over the last 10 years of the NBA. Luckily, it wasn't that, but we did find out that he is dealing with something in his calf that he announced that it's going to be 4 to 6. And when it happened, I was just trying to think to myself, when was the last time we seen a player officially announce their timeline? Like usually it comes out afterwards, right? Shams Charania gets the spin on it and he's like, oh yeah, Giannis is going to be out breaking news. But Giannis, like an hour, not even an hour, 30 minutes after the injury, he's like, yeah, they took a look at it. It's going to be 4 to 6, which is unfortunate for everybody involved. It's unfortunate for Giannis. It's unfortunate for the Bucks. It's unfortunate for anybody that was interested in potentially trading for Giannis if he was available. But here's the thing. This hurts me to say. For the first time in Giannis's Bucks tenure, for the first time, let me say it again. For the first time in Giannis's Bucks tenure, I believe it makes sense from both sides to cut ties. Yeah, it's a weird place to be, man, because normally the entirety of Giannis's career, I've been a Giannis Milwaukee guy. I try to steer closer to smaller market because I truly do hate when a smaller market does most things right when it comes to drafting, acquiring, and facilitating a star player to become a star, or in this case, a legendary player to become the franchise GOAT. I hate when that happens. And then those teams get dismissed in a way, right? You're not going to watch the Bucks. The casual fan is not going to watch the Bucks. But man, well, imagine if Giannis ended up on this team, if he ended up on that team. I can understand, and I haven't been in this position myself because it's been a long time since the Bulls have had a star player, one of the best players in the league. But I can understand the toll that it would take on the fan base to see every time that y'all talking about my favorite player. It's not about how great he is, even though you recognize that. It's more about him getting traded. I can see the frustration from that from a fan base. So I've hated any time a guy like Giannis' name came up in trade talks because he felt like a Milwaukee forever guy. Because the Milwaukee Bucks, we'll talk about this a little bit later, for the most part have put Giannis in the best position, right? They do have a championship. All things considered, no matter if Giannis stays on the team, no matter if he gets traded over the next 12 months, one thing you can say is that the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis got the first championship in 50 years with him. So anytime, with me being a smaller market guy and basically saying anytime Giannis' name came up, like, nah, he's going to be in Milwaukee. It would have had to take Giannis himself coming out and saying, I formally request a trade for me to finally really think about it, I guess until now. I just hate to see mock-ups of like smaller market guys. And every time you see a trade, it's like to a bigger market. And it's like, take my trash, I get Giannis. Giannis in a Lakers jersey. So-and-so in a Lakers jersey. So-and-so in the Heat jersey. And it has nothing to do with those teams and those markets themselves. It's more about the lack of value that's kind of attributed to when we talk about those guys getting traded to those markets. So in most instances, in some instances at least, I have no problem when a player specifically requests out of a place and end up in a big market. Even though I hated it in real time when LeBron James went to Miami, I couldn't fault him for leaving Cleveland, right? Maybe you can fault him for teaming up with Wade and Bosh, even though that was 15 years ago. Get over it, people. In real time, I hated it because I was also 13 years old, but I understand it, right? The Cavs never really put in a position to really get over the hump going against some really good teams. Even the times they get to the finals, you look at that starting five. Just go back and rewatch the first finals that LeBron James is in. Look at those starting fives against each other. You tell me if LeBron even should have been there. So I couldn't fault a young LeBron James for switching teams. I couldn't blame Anthony Davis when he wore the "That's All Folks" shirt with New Orleans after they made the playoffs twice in his 7-year tenure with New Orleans. I couldn't blame them for switching teams and eventually going to a bigger market. But over the last couple of seasons, whenever Giannis's name came up in trade talks, I just said no. It would have had to take him coming out and saying, I want to leave Milwaukee for me to start drawing up trades. But things are now different, right? Giannis has made his own conversations about wanting to be in Milwaukee, but he does have the luxury of changing his mind eventually. He's called out his teammates multiple times this season, and I can't blame him. The team's trash. You know what I'm saying? It's not a very good team. But he called out his teammates recently, and I was really confused on like trying to put together. Usually when a team A player calls out his teammates, you could kind of be like, yeah, that sounds like he's talking about so-and-so. He's talking about this guy. He's talking about that guy. Some of the stuff you mentioned about them playing selfishly and playing for themselves, I've watched a lot of Milwaukee Bucks games this season, and I just don't get that vibe for a lot of different players. It's not like, I don't know. I mean, Kevin Porter Jr. kind of always has been that type of dude. He's a talented guy, of course, but like he definitely looks like a more my stats me thing. But he also has come out with some comments about the team more than him. So I just can't imagine who he could have been talking about. Either way, Giannis gave us a lot of quotes, a lot of things to think about. And I've said this before. I don't remember if it was on this podcast or the other podcast or on the YouTube channel. God damn it, I make a lot of basketball-related content. That as somebody that has switched teams in my profession multiple times, I understand the 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing. The first company we signed to was House of Highlights. It was amazing. We loved everybody in the team. We were there for 6 years. And I just want to say, in this industry, being with the same company for 6 years is a very long time, y'all. But eventually, we had to switch. We got a better opportunity over here. And even though I'm looking at the new payday and I'm looking at the new opportunities and I'm looking at everything seems like the grass will be greener, it took a lot for me to finally tell House of Highlights I was switching teams. This is during the pandemic, so I couldn't make a full meeting in person. But I remember being on that Zoom call literally in tears as I'm telling them, I love y'all, but I have to take this opportunity, right? And Giannis, if you think about it on a way bigger scale, his upbringing, his story from, being a kid in Greece to being right outside of the lottery of this guy that for the first year of his career, every away announcing crew was mispronouncing his name. Nowadays, everybody in the world feels like they can spell Antetokounmpo. That's how big of a person and player he had become. So I can understand going from, if you've watched the Giannis documentary, going from the selling purses on the side of the road in Greece to end up being in the NBA, and the first place he stepped foot in America was Milwaukee. That fan base welcomed him with open arms through his trials and tribulations, through him going from, remember early in his career, he was playing under our guy, Jason Kidd. And Jason Kidd had him running the point guard for better. It actually helped Giannis a lot. But all of the, the missteps of him playing point guard and doing this and doing that and coming in as felt like 150-pound rookie to now be one of the biggest and strongest players in the history of this sport, I can understand, even though it makes sense maybe for him, for his future to switch teams, how difficult it can be to finally make that call. And I could guess, again, I don't know Giannis. I'm on the PR list where if he drops a new candy brand, guess what? I'm there. I get it, but I've never really talked to Giannis. We've DM'd, but something tells me it wasn't him. It was somebody that was really, in his assistant or somebody in his company. So I don't know Giannis himself. But if I had to guess, based on all the comments he's laid out over the last, let's say 10 months or so, he doesn't want to be the one to ask for a trade, but I bet he would welcome a trade if it happened. You know what I mean? So we can't point the blame at Giannis if he formally requested a trade. And I'm here to say, Giannis, I just don't know, and I can't speak for Bucks fans, I guess. I just don't know if you did formally request a trade that the fan base would be upset with you. You got the MVPs, you got the DPOY, you got the championship. You literally have a championship. The last time they did that was 1971. It took 50 years. And we see that there's not much wiggle room within this franchise to get better and get back to a contender. No. I'm not speculating. I can guarantee if you got traded to set team, the first game you get back in Milwaukee, you're getting a standing ovation. You're getting applause. You, of course, getting the video because everybody, Luke Cornett got a video. Everybody gets a video. So you're going to get a video. You're going to be beloved. You're going to get a statue. You're going to get your number retired. Everything is going to be okay if it eventually did happen. But again, from his perspective, I completely understand why he wouldn't.
Hit subscribe for more news, highlights, and analysis from the NBA on NBC.